from a very, very young age, we are taught to conform, okay? Just think about it at school. Behave, sit still, don't be too much, don't take up too much space, don't be too loud, too emotional, don't be that, and too needy. So basically just telling us like, just don't be yourself. And so we learn to shrink. We learn to hold it together. We learn to keep it going no matter what. And then life piles up and we explode. And then we feel the shame about exploding. And then we keep going. And then we explode. Sound familiar? Welcome back to No Longer Allowed. I am Kristen Falgoust, and today we are talking about the nervous system you never asked for. The one we inherited before we even knew what a nervous system was. I have to be honest with y'all before we go any further. I got so sick and tired of hearing nervous system this, nervous system that. I am a nervous system coach. Calm your nervous system, regulate yourself. And I'm sitting here like, what are y'all talking about? Okay, because I went to nursing school. And so I had to take anatomy and physiology. And when I think of a nervous system, I am thinking of the diagram of the head with the brain and all the nerves running through that we had to study for. That is what I'm thinking of when I think of a nervous system. I don't know what you think of when you think of nervous system, but I'm like, how does that have to do with anything of me losing my shit? Like, or why does that have anything to do with me like tense? Like, I don't get it. But nobody was explaining that part. They just said they could help. I didn't get it. They were just telling me to regulate myself. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I can regulate myself. Okay. So let me try to explain it in a way that I wish somebody would have explained it to me. I spent most of my life thinking this is just how life is, okay? Although my kids were here to drive me crazy. I thought that being stressed and on edge was just part of being an adult. I thought money was just supposed to be tight because I did not come from a wealthy family. I thought that worry was just part of existing. Like that is just something that you do. That's something we do, okay? And everything is a crisis. Because if you turn on the news, even if you open up social media half the time, like they're telling you that there is a crisis out in the world all the time. And so where does our mind go? It goes straight to worrying. And so I want to ask you, like, how many times were you like, yeah, I thought I was just being an adult. I thought just worrying was part of life. Because here's what I want you to know. Those weren't even truths. Those were just narratives that we had learned from growing up, and then it just grew so deeply into us that we stopped questioning them, and people before us stopped questioning them, and so it just keeps getting passed down. But this is like how we have learned to survive. Okay, so here, next buzzworthy word, survival mode. But you know what, we're gonna save that topic for another day. But that's just not life. That's a nervous system that we were never given permission to settle. And the reality of it is that we didn't pick it up on purpose. We just watched. And our bodies, that's how they learned. So to give a little story about all this, like I want to say up front, like I told y'all already, like most of this stuff right now is going to come from my experiences and stuff like that. And like what I had went through, like either childhood, adulthood, or anything like that. And I know some of this stuff is resonating in some way. Eventually, hopefully we can have like some other guests come on and they can kind of give their perspective on some different things because everybody can kind of resonate with everybody in different ways. But anyways, for today's purposes, I'm just going to give you some of my own examples of my earliest moments that I could pinpoint when my nervous system was dysregulated and it carried into like adulthood, okay? So my parents, they got divorced when I was like 6. It was me, my mom, my dad, my brother. He's 3.5 years younger than me. They both got remarried maybe like 2 or 3 years later. I'm not even sure. But my mom, we spent the majority of my time with my mom, and she was a single mom, and like she went through a lot, and she had a dysregulated nervous system of her own. I mean, and I'm sure she had some things from her childhood too that she carried on and didn't even know about it because there was just not this awareness about it at the time. And if there was, well, it didn't come to my bloodline yet. But yeah, she, money was tight. She was just working and sending us to private school. I'm sure she was getting some child support or something out of it, but it's still, money was tight. So when I was about 10 years old, my dad, he got remarried. His wife, she didn't really welcome me and my brother in with the most loving, open arms, okay? She really made it feel like that we were just kind of like a burden to her in this like new marriage that she was getting into. And like almost like as if her life would have been a whole lot easier had we not been a part of her new husband's life. That's another podcast for another day. I can promise y'all that one. And I also probably think she had some of her own deep things going on. I don't know about them. But anyway, I'm sure she did. I'm sure she had a dysregulated nervous system as well. And I'm not a stepmom. So I guess I'm going to give her just a little tad of grace and say, like, I don't know what it would be like to have two older kids come into your life and just kind of have to lovingly accept them. So I don't know. I never experienced that. The night of the rehearsal dinner, her dad got up, gave a speech. I couldn't tell you what that speech was about, but he gave them this little container display thing. Like if you're watching, it was like about this big and it had a $50 coin in there. And it was like this like plastic display case type thing. And so it came home with us to my dad's house and I was like, can I see that? And he was like, yeah. So he handed it to me. It was in my hand and it slipped and fell onto the tile floor and just the whole case just like shattered, like big old cracks everywhere. And I just remember like I was crying, my stomach, like the pit in my stomach, thinking about it, like I can still like feel it. I was so nauseated. And it was like I was embracing what she was going to do when she was going to find out that this plastic, not even a glass, plastic case broke and it was going to be me. And not only was I worried about what I was going to be bracing, I was worried about what my dad was going to like be bracing from her. That is a lot for a 10-year-old to carry. Like, whew. So anyways, I just remember after that, the next day was their wedding. Honestly, I don't remember much of it. I just remember going home from, he was in New Orleans. I remember riding in the car back to Baton Rouge with my grandparents. And I remember my grandpa having to pull over on the interstate to let me throw up on the side of the road. That's about what I remember from that. And it all stemmed from worrying about this plastic case. And so, I mean, if you want to think about it, like since I came from like a broken family, and that right there in itself can cause a lot of tension and everything. Like between both houses, like it was hard to find something to relax on because it was always having that tension right there. And so it was like always on edge, always bracing and like just waiting for the next thing. And so that became my normal. And I didn't know that wasn't everybody's normal. And it could have been. This just isn't something that, you discuss amongst your friends at that age. And I just, I thought that was life. You stay alert, you keep it together, and you're always waiting for the next time you get in trouble. And so fast forward to 2023. Y'all will learn a lot about the year of 2023 from me as we keep going because it was a very pivot. It was a pivot, I don't know, pivotal year, whatever you want to call it. Well, me and Nate were kind of like both in a super deep funk in like different situations and it was just heavy. But anyways, he did have a friend that suggested a book and it was called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. He gave it to me. He said, just read it. He's like, it's really good. Like, just try it out or whatever. And when I read it, like something kind of started to like crack open in me. And it wasn't like one of those toxic positivity, like, let's go, y'all. But it made me realize like how much more control over my own thoughts I actually had. And I'm not talking about the control, that tight grip that we want to have to like make sure that everything goes our way and stuff like that. But I had a lot more control over how I look at my life and my thoughts and how I move through my days and how I choose to show up. even when things are like super hard. And so I didn't have to be so anxious. I didn't have to be so tense. That wasn't just life. That was a pattern. That was a pattern I was living in. And patterns can be changed. And then so after that, like something shifted, and I can only describe it as like a connect the dots moment for me. Like everything I had been reading and like feeling and sitting with, like it all just started to kind of like line up. And so it was like an awakening almost. For the first time, I thought I have been conforming my whole life, not on purpose, but because people around me never questioned any of this. And that's why I decided this is no longer allowed. So here's what I want you to walk away with today, okay? 3 things. Number 1, we're going to thank the people before us. You don't have to physically go and tell them anything. You can, like, if you want to, you could journal it, you can meditate it on it, or just sit quietly with it. But just take a moment and acknowledge it. They tried the best they could with whatever they had, and then they didn't know any of this. They didn't know that yelling at you for not eating your breakfast was going to create an adult who braces for change. They did not. We know it now, and so we're here to break the cycles. We cannot break these cycles without giving them grace, okay? So that's number 1, is we're going to thank the people before us. Number 2, you are going to go and you're going to pick one pattern that you keep looping back to. Not all of them. Don't try to unpack all of your loops right now. Just one. Just pick one to focus on, okay? And maybe it is the way you snap when you feel overwhelmed, or maybe it's the way you go quiet when something is wrong. Maybe it's the way you brace for the worst, even when things are fine and you know they're going to be fine. So whatever it is, just start to notice it. We're not going to fix it. We're just going to notice it. And I want you to just start seeing it and just watch it. That's number 2. Number 3, just know that you're not alone in that. I promise you that. Every single person listening to this right now grew up in some version of the story. The details may look different from person to person, but some version of it is for all of us. You are not alone. If any of this like resonated with you and you can see the patterns in yourself and you just can't quite pinpoint these loops that you're in, that's exactly why I'm here. If you want to start small, just grab my 5-day reset in the show notes. It's just 5 days, small shifts, just enough to get you out of autopilot and start to create awareness in your life. Or if you're really ready to go deeper, I have my rhythm reset. It's 12 weeks. It's one-on-one, just you and me. We're going to pinpoint some specific patterns in your life that you keep looping back to. So when things go a certain way and you keep repeating that pattern, we're going to pinpoint it and we're going to work on it. It's not going to be perfect because we will never get rid of all of these patterns. It's about the awareness that we can create around these patterns and how we can start acknowledging when it happens and moving on from it. And that is where like the real shift is going to happen. So anyways, for today, thank you so much for being here for this first episode. This is just the beginning. If it hit home, share it with somebody because that's how we grow. We know everybody could use a little bit of this in their life. So anyways, I'm Kristen Falgoust. This is No Longer Allowed. And whatever nervous system you walked in here with today, we're deciding right now that running on survival mode is no longer allowed.